welcome you to Real Life Mom, the podcast and blog. I hope you all are doing well and keeping warm. And today I have a very special guest once again with me, and her name is Preya Gopie. Hi, Preya. Thanks for joining us here again.
Hi, Mira. It's so good to be back. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm doing well, enjoying a little bit of sunshine on this side of the room. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about mental health and well-being again. It's part two of three of our mental health and well-being series for those of you that have been following us. And today we'll be talking about thinking habits and the power of breath. Um, so, listeners, um, as per usual, Priya is going to introduce herself. Priya, can you please also share with us how you continue to improve and better yourself in your role in your life? I think that would be of specific interest to my listeners. Yeah, over to you, Priya.
Sounds good, Mira. Thank you so much. So, yeah, happy to do that. In terms of an introduction, my background is in human resources. So, I'm a senior human resources professional for the past 15 years. I've also got my own business that I established in London in 2015. It's called PG Leadership Consulting Limited. My current role, interestingly enough, is a well-being facilitator for the NHS. So I work across two hospitals made up of 7,000 people, and I am the well-being lead. And so a lot of my job means curating and coming up with ideas about well-being. And a lot of what I do is spend time reading and researching and pretty much like your listeners, listening to podcasts and educating myself because I have to come up with ideas to a lot of issues and come up with solutions that people may be facing in their jobs. My passion is women's health, so I find our roles really fascinating in society, from puberty to pregnancy, perimenopause to menopause. We have so many challenges as women, and so I'm really very passionate about mental health, physical health, psychological well-being. So that is pretty much what I'm passionate about. In terms of education, I have a master's in human resources, which I obtained in 2009. I did that while working full-time, studying part-time. And prior to that, back in Durban, where I was born, I have a diploma in biotechnology from Technikon Natal, and so I was majoring in microbiology then. So I have this curiosity about science and microbes, etc. Yeah, so really very humble beginnings. And Mira, I look at you and we have so much in common. I really do believe that although we have different cultural differences, when we meet different people, there are more similarities between people than differences. And I think about our ancestors and specifically my parents, grandparents, and they made this long journey back in 1874 from North India, and they got onto a ship and settled in South Africa. And I feel the journey that my ancestors had made as sugarcane farmers back in the 1800s is nothing compared to migration and me moving over from South Africa to London. I feel they did far more and had to deal with a lot more than what we deal with, even moving from Durban to Johannesburg, right? It's a
Yeah,
big move.
it's a huge
So,
move.
yeah. And it
Going
comes with
into the
its
unknown,
challenges.
yeah, it's huge. And then trying to think for yourself and make a life for
Yeah.
yourself. It's really amazing. But yeah.
So it's been 17 years and counting in London, but let's see what happens next, in terms of my 5-year and 10-year plan. So good to be back on the show, Mira. Thank you.
Thank you for coming by. And I've been really enjoying our bingo for the last 2 weeks. And today, I think I'm going to be sharing our third bingo game, our wellness bingo. For
Oh.
those of you who don't know, if you're following the hashtag RLMPG on my Instagram, you will find a little bingo game that you can follow for the week. So there's things like no bread Monday to Friday, a walk to run app, download a walk to run app, and very simple things that you can implement in your life that uh, Priya has shared, and which we'll continue to
Yes.
be talking about as well going forward.
Absolutely. So one of them is box breathing. So I'm sure your listeners are probably wondering, what is box breathing? Um, so
Yes.
let's just break that down a little bit. In terms of breath, there's four types of breathing, and one of them is diaphragm breathing or belly breathing. So it means really taking a very deep breath in and expanding the belly out. Now, the belly breathing is linked with the box breathing, which is an exercise we're going to do. But what I'd like to do is maybe just take a step back. So, in terms of the reading and education piece, I came across box breathing on a podcast listening to Ariane Huffington, and she's the CEO and founder of Huffington Post. And she's passionate about well being, and she's come up with an app called Thrive, which is full of tips and ideas about improving your mental health, physical health. And so she shared on a podcast about this technique called box breathing. And some people really struggle with meditation or mindfulness. You know, I do. As a matter of fact, I feel like sometimes there's so many thoughts, I can't really relax or switch off. And I found this to be such an easy technique. And she basically said that she came across it because the US Navy SEALs, they're highly specialized forces that have to work in very high pressurized environment situations whereby it's life or death. So apart from being really physically fit, they also have to be mentally quite tough because they are either rescuing hostages or they are in really difficult, challenging wars or conflicts. And they use box breathing as well. So I found it really fascinating that something so simple is being used by, the special forces in the USA. And it's really quite simple. It's just a box, and just imagine a dot going around the box with four sides. It's got inhale, hold, exhale, hold, and it's for 4 seconds per side. So, Mira, I don't know whether you'd like to play along, but if we can maybe try it together, I can talk you through it. Are you up for that?
I am. I am very up for that. Um, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so let's start. So relax, straighten up your spine, relax your facial muscles. If you prefer to close your eyes, that's fine. Or if you prefer to keep them open, then just keep a soft gaze and focus on one aspect. So inhale for 4 seconds, a nice deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath, and then exhale slowly. Hold. Inhale, deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Then inhale again. So for those of you on YouTube, you can see the video that Mira is playing. But that's basically box breathing. So, a really nice, simple technique to really relax the body when the mind has 1,000 different thoughts. And Mira, we spoke about this in the podcast previous to this about the hot cross bun technique. And I don't know whether you remember, but we said that the body sensations can impact the thoughts as well as the thoughts impacting the body sensations. So when we do take deep breaths in, it automatically slows your heart rate, regulates the breathing, and gives a sense of calm and relaxation. So, before any challenging situations or conversations, or before a big meeting, perhaps just try box breathing. Very simple technique that I use quite often. I only heard about it a few months back, maybe 6 months ago, but I do use it very often, and I find it's a technique that works really well with myself personally, but also with the clients that I speak to, that it's something really quick, easy
Hmm.
to remember. And again, it's with habit forming, right? The more often you try something new and do it, then the better the result and outcome.
Yeah, I actually love it, and you can actually feel that sense of peace if you just focus, on your breath. I love that, and I'll be including the box breathing, I think, in the bingo, the wellness bingo going forward. I think we should put it in every week. I think it would be a good
Great.
way to improve our thinking, and our mental health well-being. Um,
Great.
so Priya, could you share with us how we can improve our thinking, or the way we think, regarding mental health?
Good prompt. So, Mira, we have amazing products to clean ourselves physically, right?
Yeah.
Toothpaste. I saw your campaign on toothpaste, so clean teeth, facial scrubs, shampoo, conditioner. So physically, we're good at cleaning, but what are the tools we use? We've never been equipped with mental health hygiene. So this is something that we need to maybe consciously think about because we could have a blind spot in terms of our thinking patterns. We could get stuck over the years and fall into habits that might not be helpful. So, what I'd like to go through is some unhelpful thinking patterns, and perhaps your listeners may resonate with one or two. I've selected 8 unhelpful thinking patterns because this is something I'm quite used to when speaking with clients.
Mm.
Um, so we'll go through them slowly because 8 seems quite a lot. And for those of you on YouTube, you can see a lovely visual that Mira has put together halfway through as I go along. But yeah, I'll take it nice and slow because they are quite detailed, and hopefully this helps. And we could probably one of our games, our bingo, for example, and see how we can start focusing on the mental health hygiene aspect because it all links with our well-being.
Yeah.
So the first one, yeah, so the first one is all or nothing thinking, right? So what does that mean? So this could be black and white thinking, yes or no, right or wrong. Now, if we start thinking that way, and we spoke about this before as well, what we're trying to do is we're striving for progress, not perfection. Because if we think in all or nothing terms, it means that we shut out the spectrum of possibilities. What are the other options if we think in this respect, right? So try to remember that in life it can't be all or nothing. We can have a spectrum of possibilities in between. So that's the first one, is all or nothing thinking. The second thinking habit is catastrophizing. So thinking of an event, something terrible is going to happen or something terrible has happened, and then we keep ruminating and start attaching negative feelings towards that event. So for example, in the pandemic, we might have had a fear of leaving the house, a very real fear,
Yeah.
but as we move into recovery and we move into, the vaccination taking place and everything else, we need to be able to let go of that catastrophizing and almost get ready to ease ourselves into moving, into the social aspect of life and moving out. But that's really interesting thing because if we don't, you could fall into something called agoraphobia, and it is a very real mental health condition, which means the fear of leaving your house. So catastrophizing can be an unhelpful thinking pattern that could lead to something more severe. So we need to be mindful of this thinking habit. The third one is mountains and molehills. Sometimes we can exaggerate the risk of the danger or the negatives. And so we minimize, how things are more likely going to turn out because we focus on exaggerating something that could just be a little molehill and make a mountain of it. Think about how someone else might view it, right? What is the bigger picture? Am I just exaggerating the bad stuff, right? So that's the third negative thinking pattern. The fourth one is emotional reasoning. So if I feel bad, if I feel so bad, then everything in life must be bad. I feel anxious, so am I in danger? Just because it feels bad doesn't necessarily mean it is bad. So the judgment is made on the feelings rather than the facts. And we all know that thoughts are just automatic brain reflexes, right? So again, like the hot cross bun, maybe having wonderful positive experiences, but then striking them off or insisting those don't count, and then just focusing on the negative belief pattern.
That's so unhealthy. Yeah, it's very unhealthy.
It is, and we need to maybe focus more on the positive experiences than the negative one. And then there's the mind reading. This one is my favorite. I see this happen often because we are prediction machines. We like to finish each other's sentences. We like to assume that we know what the other person is thinking, right? But am
Yeah.
I really able to predict the future? How likely is it going to happen? Anticipating that things are going to turn out badly. We're feeling almost convinced that the prediction is an established fact, or it could be doom or gloom. And so, mind reading is our fifth unhealthy thinking pattern.
Yeah.
And then we move to compare and despair. I think, Mira, this is something Instagram is just a machine for. So compare and despair means looking at something and thinking, you know, that person's better than me or fitter than me or more good looking than me. And so Instagram is almost this machine of making yourself feeling upset when you compare yourself negatively to other people. And we can stop this. We can easily just switch off the social media or put your phone away for an hour or, you know, control how we think about things by being conscious about the way we think about things,
But
right?
on that point, Priya, it makes me think quite a bit, the compare and despair with regard to Instagram. There has been so many people that compare and even aspire, incorrectly aspire to having things that other people have or think that they have, and then putting themselves into debt trying to have the very same thing. So
Yeah.
that is also so unhealthy, and something that needs to stop. I mean, you need to know who you are. Otherwise, you need to
Yeah.
work very hard to get it instead of getting yourself into debt to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mira, I hear your passion. I hear your passion, absolutely. I hear your conviction as well. And it starts off with the thinking pattern becoming an action, and then the action becoming so competitive that it puts you in a financial constraint, is what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing you say. And that is not an ideal action or consequence. And again, it starts right back from the thought process,
Yeah.
right? So if it's the thinking that's unhealthy, how do we break that pattern? So thank you for that, Mira. You are so spot on. So the seventh unhelpful thinking pattern I'd like to discuss is judgments. So making really quick evaluations or snap judgments on a person, a conversation, or a discussion you've had, and you're thinking, oh, he's thinking that way because of that, or she just said that because she's stressed out with the kids, or just making these very unhelpful judgments because again it's like all or nothing thinking. Things can never be black or white. Judgments are helpful in a fight or flight situation whereby you have to survive and make a judgment, but making a snap judgment, the question to ask is, am I missing all of the information here before I make a judgment of that person or that situation? So that's the seventh thinking pattern, which
Mhm.
is making a very snap judgment without having all of the facts or figures or information. And the eighth one is memories. So current situations can trigger memories and lead us to believe that there's a danger out there rather than the memory had happened in the past. So putting the past in the past. Why is this causing me distress now? Even though the memory makes me feel upset, it's not actually happening to me right now. It's just a memory of what had happened in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it makes so much of sense. Um, I just feel like certain memories stay with you, and because of its negative connotation, it sort of always comes up. But yeah, I think yeah, that one is a bit of a tricky and a hard one, and that yeah, people actually need help to try and put it at the back of their memory so that they can move on,
Yeah.
going forward. Yeah, yeah. But I think a lot of people are going through that. I mean, just thinking of this whole COVID thing, now here in South Africa with the next wave coming, um,
Yes.
it brings up a lot of memories, of what just happened last year, and now here we go back into it, and we still don't haven't rolled out our vaccines, and people are upset.
Yeah.
People, the memories of last year have not gone or cannot be forgotten. But yeah, how do you go? How do you still wake up every day and live your life right here, right
Yes.
now, and
Yeah.
knowing all of these things? It's not easy, but we have to do it.
Absolutely.
There are
Yes.
things, there are ways. Yeah, there are ways that we can.
Absolutely, Mira. I think you've summed it up so nicely because we have gone through such a difficult year. For those of us who have lost loved ones, we are going through the grieving process, bereavement. It
Yeah,
has been a very challenging year. I hear you. And now you have this third wave coming and this fear because these memories are so painful and we've attached so much of fear and pain to those memories. And yes, it can trigger us to have this fear into our daily lives, into our day, or waking up in the morning. But being conscious of that it is the past in the past and it is a memory, and then trying to really hone in on the positive aspect of it, everything's always better in the morning, and starting a brand new day and trying really hard with breathing and recognizing the different types of unhelpful thinking patterns so that we know we can consciously do something about it for the day and consciously be aware. So yes, Mira, what I would love to do right now is move on to what next, the so what, right? So
yeah,
now that I know how to breathe, I know how to recognize my unhelpful thinking patterns, so what and what next? So the three A's that I'd like to cover is the awareness, the acceptance, and the action. So today's focus was very much on the awareness, being aware of who you are, what triggers you, understanding your thinking patterns, just raising the awareness of getting to know yourself really very well, right? So the 8 thinking patterns, you could be one or two. I know mine very well and very intimately because I know myself and I spend a lot of time on self improvement and self development
yeah,
because it's part of my profession, right? And so that awareness aspect of that deep understanding of who you are, how you think, what triggers you is really something that you need to focus on, right? And then we move on to acceptance. Acceptance means it is okay to think the way you think. It is absolutely okay to accept who you are. And it is fine to be kind to yourself. You do not have to put the pressure to be the best wife or the best mother or the best anything because we covered that in all or nothing. We can never be black or white. It
we
has
give
to be
ourselves a
this.
break sometimes. We can go easy on ourselves, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then we move from this awareness to the acceptance and then finally into action. Okay. The mere fact that you have this fantastic audience, Mira, and this is a gift of time, and we're learning about the action. What action can I take? Just very small, incremental amounts of change because we're striving for progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
So that's that. So that's what I would like with in terms of the awareness, the acceptance, and then the action.
Thank you, Priya. I mean, that awareness or consciousness of our unhealthy thinking patterns, and basically how my listeners can basically be aware, then also accept, and then take action of their thinking. I think it's a great way to improve their mental health and well-being. Thank you so much for coming on to Real Life Mom, the podcast, once again, and sharing your very valuable time with us. Appreciate it. We'll be having another podcast, as well as we'll be doing some Instagram live. So guys, look out for that. Um, um, Guys, if you have any questions or if you want to pop us a message, if you've tried some of the techniques and it's working for you, please drop us either a comment or you can pop me an email at reallifemumsite@gmail.com and let me know how it's going. And Priya is also available if you have any further questions or if you need to learn more on something. Yeah, so until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you all. Thanks, Priya.
Thanks, Mira. Take care. Bye.
Bye.